versus Venus, and I was doing this on the radio last week or the week before, and my wife kept slapping my hand and telling me to behave. And so I promised her she couldn't be here tonight. She has to do something with our kids in one of their million sports activities they do. I think she's a taxi half the time, but so she told me to make sure I behave tonight. All right. So we'll try to make this as effortless as possible. All right. So the DNA differences in men and women, obviously we are uniquely different. Personally, I believe you cannot exist without the other. All right. Amen. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. Me and my wife and I, rather, are complete polar opposites. Right? Everything I like, she hates, and everything she likes, I hate. And after 22 years of marriage, you've learned all that about each other, right? You guys know that. For those of you who've been married a long time. And you're discovering that if you've been married a short time. And you're questioning everything. So what makes us different on the genetic level? Let's start basic before we expand on the different health problems that both men and women face differently and why. So if you guys remember from biology, a female is an XX chromosome, right? And the male is an XY. And I forgot about all this, so I was interested when I started learning it again. But all mothers give their child an X chromosome. And so it's up to the male to give the child an X or a Y. And if you get an X from your dad, you turn out to be a female. And if you get a Y from your dad, you turn out to be a male. Right? And so that is the difference that makes a female versus a male. What I thought was interesting was research has shown that the X chromosome has 1,000 genes on it. The male chromosome, which is the Y, only has 100 on it. And so you wonder why women are more complicated, right? This is the truth. And not being sexist by any means, but this is the truth. This is why women are more sensitive, you'll learn, okay? This is why you guys have different roller coasters in your life than men, right? It's because you guys have a more robust or more complicated DNA or genetics than men do. Because we only have 100 on a Y, and women have over 1,000 on their X's. And so when they get two X's and we get an X and a Y, you guys are seriously more complicated than we are when it comes to the sexes. All right? So because of the X and the Y, we look different, we act different, we smell different, we grow different. On average, and this is just average, on average, men are traditionally larger than women. Right? On average, men have more muscle than women, and there is exceptions to that, but on average, for the most part, men we're just pretty much blocks in muscle, right? And women are curvy because of estrogen, and men are muscular because of testosterone. And so we sort of act differently, look different because of estrogen, which is the women thing, you guys know that, and then the testosterone in the men. Because of testosterone and estrogen, we actually think different, right? Men, because of testosterone, we're more aggressive. We have more neurotransmitters on our brain to absorb that testosterone, which makes us more aggressive. So our minds are wired differently, right? Remember the whole left brain, right brain thing we learned about at one time? And women, because of that, actually men, the male brain is more compartmentalized. All right, we focus on one thing and that's it. And that's why you ladies say we have a one-track mind, regardless if it's good or bad, right? You guys know. And then women, you guys have a more fluid brain because of estrogen, and you guys are just waving all over the place, right? I go with my wife shopping, and she's just, ADD in the store. She's over here looking at this, and she looks at this, and she's like, nah, and then she comes over here, right? And you know how it is, ladies, you're all over the place, and men were like, let's conquer this section first, right? Divide and conquer. I just beat this, so now let me go to this section here, right? And then you guys are just all over the place because your minds are wired that way. And this is why you're emotionally up and down sometimes, and why we set you guys off very, very easily, because we never know what state of mind you're in because of that, all right? What? We don't want to know. You don't know either, exactly, right? And because of, and you'll learn this later, but because of estrogen, and you guys are sort of, again, not saying it's a bad thing, but you guys are more up and down and moody because of estrogen. This is why during that menopause thing, when you start losing that estrogen and things start changing, you're really off the charts, right? And then once you get through menopause, things calm down according to research, right? So that's something you can look forward to, all right? Other than going through the menopause part. Also, because of our metabolisms and the way our bodies are wired, men and women deal with toxins differently. This is why men can traditionally drink more alcohol, because we can metabolize it faster than women. This is why typically women are more sensitive to supplements, food, digestive problems, medications, and things like that because of the way our bodies are wired. And what you guys don't realize is toxins sort of live and are stored in adipose tissue, which is fat tissue. And traditionally women, because of your curves here and here, you have more fat tissue, or adipose tissue as we call it. We don't want to call it fat, right? Adipose tissue. Because you guys have more adipose tissue, you traditionally store more toxicity in your bodies than men do, because we don't have as much adipose tissue, or fat if you want to just be real with what it's called, all right? So, when it comes to our health, what makes us different and what are the different things we need to worry about? So what I want to do is we're going to start with the ladies and go, obviously ladies are first. I'm a Southern guy and this is the way I was raised. So we're going to go through all the top 4 or 5 issues, or not issues, but complications that women have in health concerns, the most common ones, and how you guys can deal with those. So I'll give you the problem, we'll talk about it, and then I'll give you some solutions for it if you happen to have that, all right? Now, there is exceptions. Some of you guys will have, some of the men will have thyroid problems, even though it's not common. Some of you will. Some of you guys will have other different issues that women have, and some of the women will have issues that some men have. But traditionally, they're separated in these categories here, okay? So we'll start with the women, and then we'll go to the men. So, the biggest health concern, or most common one we see about right now, is actually the menopause and osteoporosis, right? Everybody knows what menopause and osteoporosis is, correct? Right. Who?
I know what it is.
She knows what it is. She says she's got it. Right. So menopause and osteoporosis, the reason why I talk about both of these together, guys, is because what people don't realize is one of the biggest causes of osteoporosis is the drop of estrogen very, very quickly, caused by menopause. Right? People don't realize estrogen actually helps keep the bones strong in women. Right? So without estrogen, when you go through menopause and you lose that estrogen that's in your bones, in your body, you actually develop osteoporosis. And this is why women typically develop osteoporosis after menopause. And men, we never have to worry about it, because we've never had an estrogen issue at all, because we have a lot of testosterone. So when you go through menopause and you lose the estrogen, you develop osteoporosis. And so there's some things you need to know about osteoporosis to prevent it, or actually correct it and reverse it sometimes, all right? So as we go, the first thing I want to talk about, just really quick and basic, women, regardless if you've gone through menopause or not, you should be taking a multivitamin as a basic, all right? So all women should take at least a multivitamin. And I want you guys to take a good, strong multivitamin, not something cheap and over-the-counter like Centrum Silver and all those others. Those are the cheap ones, and they're the most popular ones, but they're the worst ones for you. And if you have that, bring it in, and I'll show you why it's really, really bad for you. I think I spent a whole seminar talking about that one time. But if you're taking the Centrum Silvers, men or women, or the regular Centrum multivitamins, if you're not sure why it's bad, bring it in, and I'll show you why it's bad because of all the junk that's in the back of it. That's right there, as long as you know what you're looking for. All right. So back to the menopause and osteoporosis issue. So 3 or 4 things you guys need to do to prevent it, or actually reverse it, or manage it the best you can if it's too far gone, all right? Number 1 there, that is somebody getting their spine adjusted. People think, well, if I have osteoporosis, I have brittle spine, so the chiropractor cannot adjust me. That's a lie, all right? Yes, you don't want a chiropractor cracking your bones and twisting you and putting you in a pretzel and pushing heavy weight on you or anything like that. But the way we adjust you guys with the machine very lightly, that vibrates and stimulates things, that is good for blood flow, that's good for your joints, and it's good for your bones, all right? Every time we stimulate these areas, it fires interleukin, it fires all kinds of different hormones, and that's why it feels good, but it's also good for your bones. So that's key there. Next thing when it comes to nutritionally how to deal with osteoporosis is you guys need to stay away from acidic foods, all right? Osteoporosis is brittle bones. An acidic environment makes bones even more brittle, all right? So things like sodas, ladies, diet sodas, regular sodas, anything with carbonation in it is your worst enemy, okay? Because that's very acidic, as you guys know. You've dumped it on a car battery before, right? It eats the acid off of car batteries. It does the same thing. If you got a bunch of food stuck in your teeth and you swallow some soda and you split it around, what happens? It gets rid of all the food in your teeth, right? It just instantly eats it off. So imagine what that's doing to your gut, all right? In your body when you drink sodas every single day. So stay away from us. Yes,
You're not including good apple cider vinegar.
Right, well, that's okay, apple cider vinegar and things like that, yeah. But I'm talking about carbonation and sodas and stuff like that. Acidic drinks and acidic foods. Any food that's acidic, like all your breads, your starches, your potato chips, all that stuff that we love to eat, that's acidic. Yes, ma'am, that's acidic. So you want to go to alkaline foods, which are going to be your green leafy vegetables, all right? You can do a lemon in the first thing in the morning. Lemons are acidic in the environment. But if you squeeze it in your water first thing in the morning and drink it, it's actually alkaline. A lemon is the only thing out there that is acidic in its environment, and when it hits your saliva and you digest it, it becomes alkaline. So if you worry about alkalinity or you're spending lots of money on expensive alkaline water, you don't need to. Simply squeeze some lemon in your water first thing in the morning and drink it, and you get the same thing as alkaline water. All right? Because the body breaks it into an alkaline when you put it in your, even though it's acidic in nature. All right? So that's a good way to get that body alkaline so your bones don't break down so much. Exercise, flexibility is really, really good for the bones. Sometimes we think when we have brittle bones and we were sore, we can't work out, we can't exercise. That's false. The best thing for you, ladies, is to stay active. Keep those joints moving, right? That blood flow. People don't realize there's blood in your bones. Your bones are full of blood. They're porous. And if you're not active, that blood pools in your big bones and things like that. So you've got to stay active and get all that stuff going, all right? And then another thing you guys want to stay away from is toxicity. Since you have an estrogen problem anyways when you go through menopause, the more plastic containers you drink out of or cook out of or heat up in the microwave, it puts off like the PBAs and all the bad plastics, which are what we call xenoestrogens. So when they get in your body, it thinks it's an estrogen, but it's because it alters the estrogen compound in your body because it's a fake plastic. We call them xenoestrogens. They're all the chemicals that leach out of your plastics that you eat and drink. So stay away from those as well, all right? So that's for osteoporosis. If you want to take a couple things, the best thing for you guys for osteoporosis is obviously good old-fashioned vitamin D3. We all know it's strong for bones. And then I always get lots of questions about calcium. Well, should I take calcium, doc, because I have osteoporosis for my bones? No. You cannot take regular calcium and expect to absorb it. Your body will not absorb plain calcium unless it comes from a food. Right? You have this thing called a calcium-magnesium ratio in your blood. And if you have too much calcium, it dumps the calcium because you don't have enough magnesium to offset that. So when you take calcium for your bones, you need to take a Cal-Mag. You need to take calcium and magnesium together. All right? And that's what that one is right over there. We have some of that over there. But it's called Cal-Mag. It's calcium and magnesium together so you absorb the calcium. Plain old calcium, you're going to pee right out. You're not going to absorb it because it throws your ratio off in your blood. All right? So, osteoporosis, best two things you should take is D3 and then the Cal-Mag. All right? Any questions about that before we go on to thyroid? For the ladies? No? All right. Am I speaking too fast? You guys good? All right. Thyroid. This one is very important to women. If you're not sure about what your thyroid does, ladies or men, your thyroid regulates your metabolism, right? And so when you start to lose your thyroid or it slows down, what else slows down? Your metabolism. And you gain weight, you lose your hair, you have all these problems. You get tired, no energy, and you're searching for all these answers, and it's because your thyroid is going too low. Why does it go down? There's several reasons. It could be toxicity, it could be nervous system interference, it could be genetics. There should be a number of different things. The problem is when you have a thyroid disease, though, is the longer you take the thyroid medication that the doctor puts you on, the harder it is to get off. Because if your thyroid's not functioning at 100% and you're taking Synthroid or something else to help assist it, that makes that thyroid lazy over the years. Does that make sense? And so the longer you take Synthroid or the longer you take a thyroid medication, not saying you can't get off of it. We see it happen all the time. People get off of it. But you got to work harder. All right? So when it comes to the thyroid, a couple things, excuse me, right off the bat, adjustments. And you need to adjust for the thyroid because of this. The thyroid is controlled by a what? Anyone want to guess? The thyroid is controlled by the nervous system, right? and it communicates from the brain to your thyroid. That's how everything works in your body. That's what God gave you. And if there's any interference in the middle part of your neck that controls the thyroid, it's like I'm pinching that garden hose going to that vegetable called your thyroid. And so what we've seen with some women is when we put that curvature back in their neck through treatments and rehabs, over time they can get off the thyroid medication because the thyroid actually comes back, it starts working again. And when you feel that happening, you can slowly, over several month period, wean yourself off thyroid medication to see if you need it or not. And the way you do that is you run down to any lab test now next to Whole Foods. You don't need an appointment. You walk in there, check your thyroid. You stop taking your thyroid medication, or you cut it down for several weeks or a month, and then you go back in there and you do the test again, and you see if the numbers stay the same, got worse, or got better. And that tells you if you can come off that thyroid medication or not. And you don't need an appointment. You just walk right in there. You don't have to go to the doctor and pay a copay and make an appointment. You walk right in and just do it right there on the spot. All right? So that's how you look at the thyroid through the nervous system. Protein, for those of you who have thyroid problems, protein is very, very good for thyroid, all right? Because when you have a thyroid problem, your metabolism slows down, all right? So when you start taking protein supplements, it actually helps speed up the metabolism. But this is the thing for ladies. It's not the whey protein. You need to do the plant protein if you have a thyroid thing. There's nothing wrong with regular protein. It helps you, don't get me wrong. But research, what I saw was the plant protein synthesizes better with women with thyroid problems because it's not as hard on the stomach, in the gut, and therefore they get better results. Women get better results with plant protein versus whey protein. Right?
What about men?
Men, for thyroid conditions, I didn't see any research on that, but I would say it's the same thing. Because if the thyroid metabolism if there's an issue with your metabolism, you want the lightest thing you can do to help spur that on. Because whey, which is traditional proteins, whey from dairy, that causes some hormone stuff, and it's hard on the gut if you have any type of digestive issue. So I would say the plant protein. The study I saw was pea protein, and that's what plant protein is. Pea protein, right? Yes, peas have protein in them. Right? That's where plant protein comes from. A lot of it. Another good thing for thyroid ladies is staying active. If you have a low metabolism because of your thyroid disease, staying active and working out, walking, doing things like that helps speed up your metabolism. So you need to stay active. And the biggest thing with thyroid disease, ladies, is you need to stay away from the toxins. A lot of thyroid disease is an autoimmune disease. Autoimmune problems are caused by too much toxicity over your lifetime. And so if you can get rid of that toxicity and stay away from that and then do some of these other things, that will really, really help you out with your thyroid, okay? I've seen people get off their thyroid medication, all right? By doing these things and taking these things right here. So the plant protein we just talked about, right here. Remember the plant, ladies, not the whey. The detox, get rid of the toxicity. B complex. Your thyroid uses all the B vitamins to synthesize and make thyroid hormone. And so it's smart to take B complex vitamins, all the B vitamins, to help your thyroid work better. Okay, so that's where the B complex comes in. And then there's things like zinc, selenium, iron, all those things you hear about taking when you have thyroid problems. And so that is why we recommend Thyroid Synergy. All right, and we have that over there. And Thyroid Synergy has all those things in it, the seleniums, the zincs, the iodine, at the right ratios that your thyroid needs. So instead of taking 3 or 4 different things for your thyroid, the Thyroid Synergy has all that stuff in there, okay? Any questions about thyroid before I move on to the next thing with the ladies? Nope? All right. Depression, all right? Because of hormone imbalances, women deal with depression a lot differently than men. Not saying that men aren't depressed and have anxiety as well, because I see a lot of people with it. But majority of the time, women suffer from depression more than men do. All right? All right? And I like to say depression is, and, you know, I can get philosophical. Is that a word? Philosophical. I had a falafel today for lunch. That's what I was thinking. I want to know a little falafel bites, right? But anyways, that's right. That's where it was in my mind. But I can get philosophical on this, but I don't want to get too deep. But I like to look at this as depression, ladies, is when depression is when you're stuck living in the past because somebody harmed you. Okay, and for whatever reason you can't get through that, and that's okay. That's life, right? And so it causes a chemical imbalance, and therefore you get depressed. And then anxiety is when you're worried about the future, right? So depression is worrying about the past that you cannot control, ladies. And anxiety is worrying about the future which you cannot control. So to me, depression and anxiety, even though it's a real thing, it's something that, to me, Satan has his finger on you, holding you back, okay? So forgive others, don't worry, you'll get through it. It obviously would help, but that's just my 2 cents on the mental part of depression. You're worried about the past because of how you were harmed, and then the anxiety is you're worried about the future. So let's try to get through that the best we can. But other than that, back to this part here, depression, the research has showed that taking lots of foods that are high in vitamin C help depression. All right, so if you're looking for foods to eat, foods like your citrus foods have shown to help lower depression levels. Obviously, relaxing, taking time out for yourself, ladies. Exercise. I saw some research where women that exercised every single morning had the same effect as the depression medication. So women that got up first thing in the morning, exercise, and it helped get those hormones, everything flowing, they had better days just as if they were taking their depression medication, simply by exercising every single morning. All right, and there's all kinds of research on that you can look up yourself. And then obviously staying away from things like the toxicity, because the more toxic your brain becomes, guys, the more it causes those chemical imbalances, and which is depression, is a chemical imbalance, because you can't focus, or you have ups and downs because of how you were harmed, whatever the case is. So stay away from that toxicity as well. If you want to take something, the best thing I recommend for depression is Sleep and Mood formula. All right. I've seen women get off their depression medication within 3 to 6 months by taking Sleep and Mood formula. It does the exact same thing that depression medication does. Write this down if you know somebody that has depression or have depression. 5-HTP. Write 5-HTP down. All right? 5-HTP is the exact same thing that is the active ingredient in depression medication. All right? 5-HTP is what your body uses to take serotonin out of your stomach or your gut and put it in the brain to make you feel good. All right? When you're deficient in 5-HTP because it's burnt out from sucking all that serotonin up because you had a stressful life and you're depressed for whatever reason, then your body doesn't have enough 5-HTP, so you're not creating enough serotonin, which comes from the gut, and you can't absorb it, so you can't calm down. And so when you calm down too much, you have a depression mood. All right? So taking 5-HTP does the exact same thing that the prescription depression medication does, just without any side effects at all. All right? Because it doesn't have all the other chemicals in there. And so this is how you come from a depression medication to getting off the depression medication. This is the protocol, I guess, if you will. You take your depression medication, like you normally do. You start taking Sleep and Mood formula, which with the 5-HTP, and you take that for 2 weeks. All right? You take it for 2 weeks while you're taking your depression medication. I even recommend sometimes, ladies, you take 2 of those versus 1, just to ramp it up. Once it is ramped up in your body, the 5-HTP, then what you do is you slowly wean off the depression medication. So if you're taking 2 5-HTPs for 2 weeks and only 1 of your depression medications, what you do for the next 2 weeks is you keep taking your 2 5-HTPs for the rest of the month, but then you take your depression medication, you cut it in half. Does that make sense? Either 1 a day or instead of 2 a day, or once every other day. And you do that for 3 or 4 weeks, and you see how you feel, because you don't want to stop the depression medication cold turkey because it's got withdrawals, and then your husband won't be happy with you, okay, and you will be miserable. And so HTP, so Sleep and Mood for 2 to 4 weeks, 2 a day, and then when you get to that 2-week mark, you can slowly start to wean off your depression medication as you keep on the rise with the Sleep and Mood. And once you get down to where you feel comfortable and you're only taking half your depression medication and you want to try getting off it completely, then what you do is you wean down off the 5-HTP, the Sleep and Mood. So instead of taking 2 a day, you take 1 a day, right? That makes sense. I didn't lose anybody, did I? And then instead of going every other day with depression medication, you try every 3 days for a couple weeks. And over a few month period, you come down to where you're just taking 1 Sleep and Mood a day, like it calls for in the bottle, and you're not taking any depression medication, right? And that is what I've learned over the past 5 or 10 years of telling people to take that. That's the safest and most effective way to get off the depression medication, right? So, any questions about that?
Does it, it says sleep, is that?
It helps you sleep as well, yes ma'am. But we sell it mainly not just for sleep, we sell it for the depression part. But yeah, it does help you sleep as well. Yes, ma'am. You're exactly. That's why it's called sleep. I didn't mention that. All right. But it
And
does.
good,
All right?
good night's rest also helps with depression.
And the good night's rest. That's why some of y'all are depressed because you can't sleep at night. it's like, man, I gotta get up and I gotta cook them dinner and breakfast and I gotta run the kids all over the place. It's tough. Bless you guys is all I can say. All right. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about with women before we go to men is breast cancer, the big C. All right, this is the one that scares a lot of women, rightfully. All right, a couple things with breast cancer. Obviously, getting adjusted is really good for your health. We know that. I don't have to preach that to you guys. That's why you guys are here. Cancer cannot live in an acidic environment. In an alkaline environment. You guys know that, right? Cancer strives in an acidic environment. If you are alkaline, cancer cannot grow. It is physically impossible for cancer to grow in an alkaline environment. Cancer cannot grow in an aerated environment. It cannot stand oxygen either. It cannot stand oxygen, but it can grow without oxygen. So the biggest thing to prevent cancer, or if you're dealing with cancer, is create an alkaline environment, right? And to put lots of oxygen in your system by exercising and working out, and you get lots of oxygen through your blood that way. Does that make sense to you guys? And so the biggest thing with that is eat lots of green leafy vegetables to create that alkaline environment. Vitamin D, being out in the sun, ladies. This is your biggest benefactor. This is the biggest thing you can do to prevent breast cancer is getting exposed to vitamin D or taking vitamin D. I will show you some studies in a second, but being in the sun for 15 or 20 minutes a day is the best thing you can do. But in our society, we're scared of the sun, right? It causes cancer, right? That's what we tell us, right? You take a plant out of the sun, what happens to it?
It dies.
It dies. You take a human out of the sun, what happens to that human? It wilts. Okay. I'm not talking about a tanning bed. That'll wilt you too, right? But you take a person out of the sun, they get sick. And this is why more people up north in the parts of the country with less sunlight are sicker than the southern people, all right? Traditionally, because of vitamin D and how our body synthesizes that. And not to get too far off on different opinions on stuff, but if you're worried about the sun causing skin cancer, what about the chemical you're putting on called suntan lotion that has known carcinogens in it? You cannot pronounce none of that stuff in suntan lotion. Look it up. It all causes cancer. And when you put something on your skin, it immediately does what? It gets absorbed. And so I can't be in the sun. I got to put suntan lotion on to keep from getting skin cancer. And you're just putting chemicals on you, and you're getting skin cancer anyways, right? Think about it, right? Those of you that don't get in the sun, you still get sunspots. You still get skin cancer, because I know a lot of you do that, right? You have pale skin, but you still got skin cancer. I see it all the time getting picked off you guys, right? And yet, we think it's the sun causing it. It's not the sun. It's the stuff you're putting on yourself. Okay, so you need the sun when it comes to your skin. Also, just staying in shape, exercising. Traditionally, healthy people don't get cancer as much as sick people, right? There's some exceptions, don't get me wrong. But back to that D3 thing with cancer, with breast cancer. There's been studies that have been out since the early 90s, and as recently as I saw one last year, I looked up yesterday, it was published in 2018, that taking 5,000 units of D3 a day prevents 82% of breast cancer. 82%. If you guys, last time you bought D3, where's D3? I don't have D3 up here. I think our D3 is like 16 or 18 bucks a month is all it costs. And it prevents 82% of breast cancer, right? By simply taking vitamin D3. And if you can cut your chances of breast cancer by 82% by taking a simple little vitamin D3 pill, I think you should do that, ladies. Yeah, there you go. It's on sale today, $16.20, right? To prevent breast cancer, 82% of it, right? And that's there's a million research articles out there. Write that down, 80 to 82%, and you can Google that or look that up. And there's a million articles out there that show taking 5,000 units of D3 every day prevents 82% of breast cancer. The American Cancer Society says to take it. All the cancer research people say to take it, but we don't hear about that. All we hear about is raising money to find a cure. Sometimes it's right in front of you or it's right above you, right? And you just gotta listen to. Just use use what God designed us to do, right? That's all I can say about that. God created us perfect. We get in the way. He gave us everything we need to survive. We just don't take it. We think we're smart. Anyway, don't get me started. All right, so all right, that was women. Any questions from the ladies about those simple things before we go through the men? Yes, ma'am.
If you don't have any thyroid problems, can you still take the thyroid pill?
Yeah, it'll help your metabolism. Yes, ma'am. It'll help your metabolism. It does. Yeah. Because remember, the thyroid is your regulator. It regulates temperature, regulates metabolism, all that stuff. So if it's a little sluggish, a little borderline, take thyroid in synergy. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure to open the bucket of worms. You can just answer yes or no.
Okay.
But does vitamin D3, I think, help people with manic depression, bipolarism, that type of stuff?
There's some studies out there, yes. I'm not too familiar with too much of it, so I don't want to get into it. Because vitamin D helps balance hormones and all that other good stuff, and so that's why it could theoretically has helped that. But I'm not a specialist in that, so I won't comment too much of it. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a reason why D3 is mixed with probiotics?
Yes, good question. You can get you need two things to absorb D3, either probiotics or K2. I think it's K2, vitamin K. So when you take lots of vitamin D, like 5,000 units, you need something to help help your gut absorb it, and so that is why our D3 has, I think, 10 billion probiotics in it. Okay, so it's like a combination. You get good enzymes or good probiotics for your gut, and it helps you absorb the 5,000 units. Because the body doesn't want to absorb too much. That is why if you're taking a prescription vitamin D, which is like a D1 or D2, I think it's called D2, it's a prescription form, it's 50,000 units. And the reason why they give you 50,000 units is because you want to take it like once a week or something like that. And the reason they give you 50,000 units is because you won't absorb all of it, because it has to linger around for a while. And that's why I tell people it's a waste to take the prescription 50,000 unit vitamin D. It's faster to either go out in the sun or take 5,000 a day so you can absorb it faster and bring those vitamin D levels up that way. Right?
So 15 minutes in the sun equals about 5,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
Go out there and
I'm
just do this. Just do it.
All right, well, that's why I'm out in the yard.
There you go. Right? That's how you do it. So her question was the probiotic enough. It's enough to help you absorb that D3. If you want to take probiotic, I recommend you take it. We have some others called it's a 50 billion, and it's just probiotic. It's 50 billion probiotic. I recommend you take that if you want probiotics versus not. Yes, you get it from the D3, but it's best to take the 50 billion if you have a gut thing for that. All right. Any other questions on that before I go to the men? All right, men. Just like the women, men, you need to take a multivitamin too. All right. And again, stay away from the Centrum Silvers. And the reason why, guys, if you look at, and it's just not multivitamins. If you look at any type of vitamin, they all pretty much like multivitamins. They all have the same stuff right through there. Okay, I mean ours will have the same as the Centrum, or we may have more or less, whatever the case is. That's not what you need to focus on, all right? Because it all has that in there. What you need to focus on is that little tiny small writing that says other ingredients. Okay, if you look, the other ingredients a lot of times will be bigger than what's actually in there. So it's that much stuff on the other side that is all chemicals for filler. Does that make sense? And so you want something that has other ingredients that has like one or two things in there. And like ours just simply says it's primrose capsule, which is a vegetable capsule, and it's got something else in the vegetable stearic acid. So it's got two things in there other than all that other stuff in there. So that's what you look at when you buy supplements. And if you're not sure, bring your supplements in, and I will read the labels for you and point that out. All right. So this men's multi is the basic thing. All right. The biggest thing with men, high blood pressure. All right. Yes, women can have high blood pressure, but traditionally men have higher blood pressure than women. This is the #1 health concern for men. Normal, which has been supposed to be normal for years, everybody's learned it, 120/80. As soon as you hit 130 or 190, you freak out. Your doctor puts you on a bunch of medications, and it makes you feel tired and sluggish. And you keep taking it for months, and then it causes ED, erectile dysfunction. And you keep taking it for even longer than that, and then you feel like you're getting old. And you can't figure out what's going on. It's because of that stupid little lisinopril pill that you take all the time, right? I tell men, especially for those of you that are 50 years and older, if your blood pressure is below 150/90, the benefits do not outweigh, the side effects are greater for you to take that medication than the benefits from that medication. So if your blood pressure is around 150/90, the benefits you would get from a pill is not worth it because of the side effects it's going to cause you guys. All right? And so I tell people 150/90. And sometimes, a lot of you don't realize this, but if you're taking, say 40 milligrams of lisinopril, you can try to cut it in half from 40 to 20 for a couple weeks and see what happens. And a lot of times nothing changes. Your blood pressure stays the same, and you just cut your medication in half. And yet you only have half the side effects. Does that make sense? And so sometimes you can just try to cut it down that way, all right? So with high blood pressure, there's a couple things you need to do or look at to bring that down or keep that from happening. The number one thing is, and if I've never given you this research article, Liz or Sherry can give it to you next week, not tonight afterwards because they'll be busy. But they have an article over there that talks about if you adjust the C1 atlas, which is the top bone up here, if you adjust it a specific way, it actually drops your blood pressure by 10 points greater than the two leading blood pressure medications combined. And it's an article that's on WebMD. You can look it up on if you just Google blood pressure WebMD, chiropractic WebMD blood pressure article. And it's been on there for years. And by an atlas adjustment right here, that's when I put some of you guys on the side to do that thing. It drops your blood pressure 10 points greater than the two leading blood pressure medications combined. And there's no side effect for that. And if you want that article, the ladies can give you that next week so they're not so bombarded right after here. All right? So the best thing for that is an adjustment to lower that blood pressure, okay? Stay away from whole grains, guys. All right? Grains are inflammatory. Inflammatory foods cause your blood pressure to go up. We eat a lot of whole grains because we think it's good for our digestive system and fiber and all those different things. But it actually makes your blood pressure go up. So stay away from whole grains. Obviously, meditating, relaxing, that's going to bring your blood pressure down. And then I don't have to tell you guys this, the more you exercise, the better it is for your blood pressure. That's common sense. We just don't want to do none of those on the end. Okay? If you just want a quick fix, other than the adjustment, liquid magnesium is really good for your blood pressure. All right? It relaxes the vessels, just like it relaxes the muscles, helps you sleep at night. Studies have been shown men that take liquid magnesium, like the pro-magnesium there, helps lower your blood pressure as well. And it helps you sleep at night as well. So that's a good thing to take right there. All right? On blood pressure.
But careful on the amount, right?
Yeah. Yes, careful on the amount. You take more than a teaspoon, it becomes a laxative. Then they're done that, I know. All right? That's a good thing for some of you if you're backed up. Take two teaspoons or chug some out of the bottle like I did because I was too lazy to put it in my spoon. And I grabbed my wife's off the nightstand and I just turned it up and she laughed. And I was like, oh, she laughed. And 2 in the morning, guess who's on the toilet? So it is. So no more than a teaspoon, guys, okay? Unless you need it to clean you out, then 2 teaspoons. All right? Cholesterol. The other big issue with men is cholesterol. I can spend a whole hour on cholesterol. I'm not going to. Cholesterol does not kill you. It does not cause heart disease. Cholesterol is what God gave you to protect and keep you from getting heart disease. You have a warped thinking on the way you've been taught what cholesterol is. The body makes cholesterol for a reason. When you eat bad foods and it gets in your bloodstream and it goes through your liver, the liver's job is to make cholesterol. It makes it. That's why when you take a cholesterol-lowering drug, you have to monitor your liver because it's killing your liver. Right? It works by inhibiting an enzyme in the liver. So you no longer make cholesterol. So your numbers look good. But you keep eating the same stupid foods. But your cholesterol looks good because you're taking a statin drug. And then you still have high blood pressure, you still have a heart attack, you still have you still develop heart disease. Right? Because there's nothing to fight the inflammation. If your cholesterol is high, it's simply doing its job. It's fighting the inflammation. That's why God gave you cholesterol, right? And so when you take a statin drug, you can't make it anymore, and it looks good, you think you're good, but you have side effects of the medication, but then on top of that, there's nothing to fight the inflammation. And your heart has to do what? Work what? Harder. And you still develop heart disease. More people die with low cholesterol than they do high cholesterol. I mean, look it up. It's a stat. You can Google it on your phone right now. More people die with from low cholesterol than they do high cholesterol. More people die taking statin drugs than people that didn't take statin drugs. You can look it up on your phone as you sit here right here and see the articles. And so it's just a thing we've been taught. We always have to worry about a cholesterol. I tell patients if your cholesterol is under 300, it is not worth you taking a cholesterol medication. It's killing you. It's making your joints hurt, because when it kills that enzyme that makes cholesterol, that medication, when it kills an enzyme, the byproduct of cholesterol is CoQ10. And if you're not making CoQ10, there's no way for your body to take the food, the energy from the food you eat, and put it into your muscles. CoQ10's job is to take energy, ATP, from food and put it in your muscles. And if you're not making CoQ10 because of the statin drug, you're not taking energy from your food to your muscles, and the strongest muscle is your what? Heart. Your heart. So your heart's working harder anyways, right? And so if you are taking statin drugs, you need to be on CoQ10 and things like that, all right? So that's my issue with cholesterol. And it's not the cholesterol that causes the stroke. So when you get inflammation in the arteries, if you had cholesterol, it would actually fight that inflammation, right? But since you don't have any cholesterol left because you took a drug, that inflammation keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it forms and it causes plaque. The plaque is just the cholesterol laying down trying to protect it. But you won't, since you take the medication, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, and then it stops that artery off, and we say it was because of the plaque in your arteries, or because you had high cholesterol. You had the plaque and you had the built up because you were taking a statin medication, so it could not fight the plaque or the inflammation. Does that make sense? It's completely different thinking, but if you realize what happens there, right? And I can go into more detail about that on another time with you guys individually if you want. So if you have high cholesterol and you're worried about it, you shouldn't be, but if you do, obviously you want lots of fats in your diet, okay? The biggest thing to lower inflammation is fats. The inflammation comes from sugar, starches, and carbs. And so you cut out the sugar, starches, and carbs, you replace it with the good fats, not the bad fats, and you'll see inflammation come down really quickly, and you'll see your cholesterol come down on its own by simply cutting out the sugars and things like that. Cutting out sugar and bread will lower your cholesterol faster than the statin medication will, and you won't have any side effects, right? And then obviously exercise is a good thing there, right? So cholesterol, gentlemen, the three things I recommend for that is the CoQ10, because you've been taking a statin drug, you need the CoQ10, right? Vitamin C, and then the Alto Omega. Those are these are your good fats, and the vitamin C is good to. The vitamin C, guys, when you take high doses of vitamin C, lowers LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. And so taking concentrations of vitamin C complete, lower that bad cholesterol, so you don't have to worry about it if you're worried about it. And then taking the good fats, which is the Alto Omega, and then the CoQ10. So those are the three things if you're worried about your cholesterol. You shouldn't be, but if you are, those are the three things you need to take, gentlemen. And then some ladies.
Wasn't there
Yes, ma'am.
with my husband, didn't you also say something about fiber also helps?
No, I told your husband because of his sugar.
Okay.
Remember, because
All right.
he says his sugar was getting too high, so I said to get the best way to, it was different. Prostate cancer. What's the big one for the men, right? The biggest thing with prostate cancer, guys, is obviously adjusted and clear nervous system, get healthy, right? Again, cancer cannot survive in a alkaline environment, right? And so lots of green leafy vegetables and good food. Less stress, exercise, all those different things are very, very good for prostate cancer. There's something people don't realize is type 2 diabetics are actually more prone to prostate cancer than people that don't have type 2 diabetes. Because one of the things that causes prostate cancer, they're learning, is high amounts of sugar in your urine. Right? High amounts of sugar in your urine, it affects the prostate. It causes inflammation. It causes prostate cancer. So one of the good things to lower that sugar in your urine is things like the Max Fit, which is the ashwagandha and green coffee bean extract. It speeds up metabolism, gentlemen, so it does give you more energy. Trust me, it says take 3 a day. Take 3 individual pills a day. Don't take 3 at one time, because it'll bump you up. All right? So it speeds up metabolism, but it also helps. Ashwagandha and green coffee bean extract helps lower helps lower sugar in your urine as well. And then the men's multivitamin has all that stuff in there. We've heard for years that you're supposed to take for prostate health. So that's a good one to have there as well. There was one more thing I was going to talk about. Oh yes, prostate health. The United States is the only country that will biopsy and work on prostates when it's just elevated under 10. The rest of the world waits till your PSA gets 10 or higher. As soon as yours guys gets, 3, 4, 5, they freak out. and they biopsy and they're sticking their thing in there and they're doing all this stuff, right? And you're getting radiation and all these treatments and whatever they're doing to you. But the rest of the world waits till your PSA gets 10 or greater. So that's just something to think about if you have an inflamed prostate. When you get older, your prostate gets inflamed anyways. It's called age, right? And so in that PSA test, guys, is 50% wrong half the time. So always ask for another one, and you'll see it come back completely different. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but it's like has a 50% accuracy rate in PSA tests. Right? So always ask your doctor, gentlemen, for another one if you don't like the results of the first one. All right? But if it's under 10, I tell people don't worry about it because the rest of the world waits till it gets 10 or higher on the PSA. So that's just things for prostate. All right? Any questions about prostate before we move on to heart disease, which is a common thing? Nope. All right. So what do you guys have in common? All these different things. The most common thing is heart disease. And heart disease is the #1 killer in the country, right? I think it was 3 out of 5 people die from heart disease. That's the #1 killer in our country. It kills more people than cancer, but cancer is a scary one, so we talk more about cancer than we do heart disease. And so there's some simple things to get rid of heart disease. When it comes to men and women, the only thing different is men, we traditionally develop heart disease faster than women because of testosterone. All right? Traditionally, women live to be 7 to 10 years longer before they develop heart disease. So men should traditionally get it 7 to 10 years earlier than women do. All right? You both can develop it, but the only thing different is men, because of how our biological makeup is, we get it earlier than women do. All right? So when you have heart disease, or you're worried about preventing heart disease, people don't realize, but the heart, the strongest, most important muscle you have, actually regenerates itself over time. If you just give it what it needs to have. Some of you just give up on it, right? The heart actually regenerates every single day, and so it can. I've seen, within long months and whatnot, but people reverse heart disease within 6 to 8 months, just doing the things they're supposed to be doing. All right. You guys remember Wilson that used to come here all the time from people that have been around a long time? Remember Wilson? Some of you? He was my first patient. Long story short, type 2 diabetic, heart disease, all these different things. He did everything I told you for 6 months. This guy just worshipped everything we said. And in 6 months, he reversed his diabetes and his heart disease. The VA couldn't believe it. They actually sent a letter up here wanting to know what we did from the VA in Columbia. And reversed his heart disease with no medication. Because he did everything we said to do. And he loved to talk all the time. So if you remember Wilson, that's what's him. All right, so obviously adjustments are good for your health and heart disease, guys. The foods, we'll talk about food in a second. To prevent heart disease or reverse heart disease, stay away from the inflammatory foods. So the best thing for you guys is going to be the advanced plan. You should know what the advanced plan is already. I don't need to reteach you guys on that. Exercise is obviously good for the heart. And just relaxing, enjoying. I mean, stress, just get rid of your stress in life. A lot of times that causes a lot of heart problems like that. So your emotions, your environment, and your stress levels have a huge impact on your health, guys. There's been research that shows little things they put in the brain or whatever, that the more stress you get, the more sicker you are. Right? There's research out there that shows people that live a less stressful life have less disease. And so just getting rid of your stress sometimes is a good thing as well. Remember, don't live in the past and don't worry about the future. Enjoy the now, right? Something to take for heart disease, if you're worried about it, we call it our Daily Essentials Bundle, the multivitamin, the B complex, the omegas, the vitamin C, and the pro-magnesium formula right through there. All right? That's what we call our Daily Essentials Bundle. If you're worried about heart disease and things. All those things are the things we talked about that would help you with heart disease. All right? Doing great on time. There's nothing wrong with vitamins and supplements, guys. We sell a lot of them. I encourage you to take them. But you should be getting all this stuff from what? Food. Right? We just don't eat the food is a problem, so we got to spend money to take this stuff, right? And so just nourish your body through food. Again, the 2 plans, the core plan and the advanced plan. Core plan, for those of you that haven't researched that in a long time and haven't been to one of Stacy's classes, core plan is eating healthy. It's just maintaining your health. This is lots of good fats. If you're going to do dairy, do the full fat dairy. Hopefully you know why. If you don't, raise your hand. I'll tell you why. Good naturally raised animal proteins, whole grains and ancient grains for the core plan, not the advanced plan. Fruits and vegetables, and then plant-based carbohydrates. All right. That's for the core. The only thing different with the advanced plan, which Stacy teaches you guys in the classes, is you got to cut out all the grains, good and bad, and only eat the low sugar fruits and berries, because that can cause things to escalate as well. All right? So, action steps, ask questions, get what you need. So, any questions? Surely there's some questions. Yes, ma'am.
Can I tell a story about inflammation?
Yes, ma'am.
When we've been down for 2.5 years, we found Dr. Bear just a month after we moved down. Shortly before we moved down here, I had lower gut pain. Constantly, I lived with it. I had total urological, gynecological, all the tests you could have, nobody found anything. And the only solution they came up to me is, we have diagnosed you with abdominal pain, and we can do a complete hysterectomy to see if that works. And what it was, and what I know now, it was simply inflammation.
We look too much to man and medicines and all the science and research, but it's just so simple, and so we overlook the simplicity of it sometimes because we're lazy, unfortunately, right? And we take the words of everybody else versus just how God created us. And, you know, it's food, health, whatever. It's simple. You just got to accept that it's simple and try to not make it so complicated, right? Yes, sir.
Doctor, you hear a lot of advertised for supplements for men, testosterone, low T. How prevalent is that, and are the testosterone supplements something that's good or bad? Or
some people swear by them, some people hate them. You know, it's either artificial testosterone or it's some type of from an animal or something like that. The biggest side effects of that is prostate cancer. So if you just any type of testosterone supplement out there or prescription, the androgen, the stuff you put on, whatever the case is, the biggest side effect of that is prostate cancer. And so, and it will say it on the labels if you just look at that. And just I'm glad you brought that up. Not just with testosterone for men, but estrogen for women. So you go through menopause, and the first thing you start hearing are those commercials on hormone replacement therapy, right? Mm-hmm. And so you take the hormone replacement therapies, and it gives you a little bit of energy. And I'm not knocking. I have ladies that swear it works, and I've had ladies that said it almost killed them, right? But you need to understand about hormone replacement therapy. It's just pregnant horse urine is all it is. Premarin, pregnant mare urine. So they give you a pregnant horse, a mare, has high estrogen amounts because they're pregnant, right? And so they bottle that stuff or they put it in a chemical and they give it to you. And that's how they get your estrogen up hypothetically, okay? I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about this. So I have an insert from one of those. This is actually the women one I forgot to talk about. This is Brisdale, which is one of the most common hormone replacement pills, prescriptions you can take out there, okay? And so a lady she did some research after one of my workshops, and she brought this whole insert from her medication. And so it actually had the breakdown, because by law they have to provide this to you, you just don't ever look for it. It had the breakdown of the research and the study and the changes in the side effects and things like that. All right? Can you see this with me? So people know I'm telling the truth. So Brisdale versus the placebo. This is the female hormone replacement therapy stuff that you get from your doctor. The average treatment difference is what? It's negative 1.2 compared to the placebo. Negative 1.2. That's for 4-week use. If you take it for 12 weeks, it has a negative 0.9 difference versus a placebo. Yet the number one side effect of that is what? Suicide. So you take a prescription hormone replacement therapy that has the number one side effect as suicide, and you wonder why you're going crazy, ladies, and getting depressed. And you're doing that for a negative 0.9 or negative 1.2 difference in a placebo. If you look even at the fine print, read this out loud for me. What does that say?
This way Brisdale treats hot flashes associated with menopause. The way Brisdale treats hot flashes associated with menopause is not known.
Doesn't help.
It is. So, look at your label. All right, any other questions on hormone replacement therapy or anything else? No? All right, yes ma'am.
For blood pressure for men, the adjustment How often would they have to have that adjustment?
Everybody's different. I've actually seen guys come in here and one adjustment and lowers it, and they're just blown away, and they sign up for care because of that. And then I've seen guys where it takes, weeks or months for it to come down low enough where they can get off their medication. So, yeah. And if there's somebody in here that's gotten off their medication, you can tell her how you did that through the adjustments, because I know there's some people in here if they don't mind saying. But yeah, so it works. Sometimes it works faster, sometimes it works slower, sometimes it works immediately. It's just everybody's different. But Liz or Sherry can give you the article next week that shows you how it works, and you can do the research article. That way you know exactly how it works and with what we're doing. All right? Any other questions, guys, or comments? Yes, ma'am.
If you take a lot of the different supplements, can you I'm always afraid I'm gonna overdose on vitamin D or something,
Yeah.
because if it's in several different things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, can you overdose on supplements?
Yeah.
Yes and no. If it's natural, now and I can't speak for everybody's supplements, but ours simply comes from whole foods. There's not a single chemical in anything we sell, all right, other than the vegetable capsule, which is made out of primrose or sunflower or something like that, all right? So if you're taking ours, you cannot overdose. All you do is you pee it out if you have too much, okay? If you're taking a cheap version that has a bunch of filler in it, or it's a plastic capsule like made in China and all these. When you guys hear those studies about the supplements causing problems, they're the ones that are made in China, and it's not the ingredients; it's the stupid capsule that has lead in it, all right, and the color, all right. Those are the problems. So when you hear about people having reactions to a supplement, it's not the stuff; it's the plastic tablet it's in, all right? And so if you're taking a natural supplement with no fillers, you cannot overdose. It will just change the color of your urine and you'll pee it out and you'll notice it, all right? But if you're taking something junk with a lot of filler in it, you can have a reaction to that, and then yes, you could have a problem, all right? That answers your question. Anything else, guys? All right, bless you. I'll be here to answer any questions, and everything is 10 to 15% off tonight. Thank you guys for your time. And it's 7 o'clock on the dot.